home care is a matter of life and death for me, and for seniors and disabled people. I rely on a ventilator to breathe, and so I require 24-hour care. My caregivers do everything from making sure there are no blockages in my breathing tube to fixing the tablet I use to communicate. Caregivers are highly skilled professionals, and it takes months of training to learn this job. At a nursing home, I would not be able to receive the level of care that I need to survive. In addition to keeping me safe, my caregivers serve as an extension of myself, helping me participate in my family's life in ways that I would if I were not paralyzed. Their work saved my marriage, allowing my wife, Rachel, and I to be partners and co-parents again, instead of patient and caregiver. Their work allows me to participate in this conversation today. I've been able to retain my team for years now because I pay them good wages. This isn't the case for most care workers, the majority of whom are women of color, who are severely underpaid and receive little to no benefits. Without a well-paid direct care workforce, we won't have enough workers to be able to expand access to home and community-based services. We must create more direct care jobs, and provide fair compensation for our care workers so that they can support their own lives and families too. Securing home care for all, and bolstering wages for our care workers then must go hand in hand. This is a matter of justice for our aging and disabled communities, and for the workers who make our independence possible. Care can't wait. Contact your members of Congress and let them know how home and community-based services would make a difference in your life, today, and in the future you imagine.
All right, folks, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. I'm glad that you joined us. My name is Shantae Wolf, and I'm Director of Campaigns at Caring Across Generations. And thank you so much for attending our Spring into Care, Caring Across Mass call. For those that may be joining us and never heard of who we are, since 2011, we have been building a movement of all ages and backgrounds to transform the way we care. And today we'll hear from several advocates and activists that have been doing the work on the ground to advocate for home and community-based services, care workers and caregivers, and those that fall in between. So to kick us off, we'll start with a conversation of where things lay at this moment. A lot of people feel like they don't know what happened with the Build Back Better package, but we're here to say that's okay. There's still light at the end of the tunnel. And so we'll hear from Nicole Jorick to tell us a little bit about that. And then we'll actually dive deeper into the work that we've been doing in the States with some exciting research from our friends in California, hand in hand. And then we'll talk a little bit more about how you can get involved. I'm excited to kick off this amazing conversation. So without further ado, I'll kick it off to our Chief of Advocacy and Campaigns Director, Nicole Jorick. Nicole, tell us what's going on.
Thanks so much, Shantae. So glad to be with everybody from very windy Washington, D.C. And give you a little bit of an update. It's kind of, there's been a lot of things to follow, and we want to make sure that everybody, all of our partners, all of our state partners, all of our allied partners, and everyone that cares about care has a real understanding about where things are. As Shantae said, all hope is not lost, but also there's a lot of confusion because for about a year, we've been talking about something called Build Back Better. And that was because that was the way that President Biden and the Congress packaged a lot of the priority issues that they wanted to see move in Congress. And the good news is that those priorities, a lot of them are still in play. Unfortunately, not all of them, but a lot of them. The bad news is it's going to have a different name. So what you're going to hear and what you should really be focusing on are those pieces that we're advocating for to be part of what's now kind of being called the economic recovery package. That's the word, it's being called, but you don't need to really remember that. Just don't worry if you hear things like Build Back Better isn't happening. That doesn't mean that the huge transformational investments that we've been talking about, that Adi just mentioned in his remarks before me about the investments in home and community-based services to address both access to those life-giving services as well as to address the direct care crisis, are still very much at play. So what we're talking about is $150 billion, which is over 10 years to really address both of those issues. And those issues need really more than that money because of the decades of lack of investment. So we've seen the American Rescue Plan Act funding. It passed about a year and 20 days ago, to be exact. And that American Rescue Plan Act funding provided almost $13 billion to the states. And I really call that money that was meant to plug a hole in a sinking ship. That funding was for 1 year of services after going through a year of the pandemic. And so now we need to push for this $150 billion to do the big transformational things that we need to see happen, to pull some of the over 850,000 people that are on waiting lists for these services into the service system, but to also build the infrastructure that's needed. We couldn't put additional people into the system right now that already doesn't have enough staff. So we also want to be making sure that we're making these direct care jobs good jobs with family sustaining wages, because it's the right thing to do. And just like our director, Ai-jen Poo, wrote in an op-ed yesterday in the New York Times, we can't just ask for more home care workers. We have to make those home care jobs good paying jobs, because ultimately that benefits the worker and it benefits the individual receiving services and family caregivers like myself, who then don't have to worry about where those services are coming from. So what you can do is what Adi just said at the end of his remarks, which are reach out to your legislators and just ask for that $150 billion investment. Share your story, make the ask, and remind your legislator that you'll be holding them accountable to see that $150 billion and the other care priorities come through in the economic recovery package. Always happy to answer questions as things move along, but that's my update from Washington, D.C. Please keep the fight going. We do expect this, I should mention, that we do expect this to all hopefully wrap up by late May, maybe into the summer, at the very latest by the recess at the end of July. So I know we've been making a lot of the same asks for a while now, and that can be really tiring and frustrating. I get it, it's tiring for all of us too, but we have to keep the fight going. We're in the last few months of the push, and then we'll get there and have this transformative funding to get down to the state level to have you all implement. And I'll turn it back over to Shantae.
Thank you so much, Nicole. I think that you highlighted something at the very end, which is very important to why we continue to keep going, which is our why behind this work. Care is not a monolith across the United States. What caregiving looks like in the South looks different in Kentucky, looks different in California, it looks different in New York. And that's what makes this movement beautiful, is that we bring different people to the table to talk about the nuances or the utilities of care, as we like to say, which is paid leave and childcare, and how those impact families. As we all know, caregiving will fall into our lives, whether we like it or not, whether it's with your chosen family or those that you grew up with. We will have to deal with this sometime in our lifetime. And our friends in California has done some amazing research around this. So I'm actually going to pass it off to our great colleague and partner, Lindsay Imai Hong, with California Hand in Hand, who's going to walk us through a little bit of research around care in California. So I'll pass it off to you, Lindsay. It's great to see you.
Thanks so much, Shantae. Appreciate it. My name is Lindsay Imai Hong. I'm with Hand in Hand, the Domestic Employers Network, and I am zooming in from Oakland, California on unceded Chochenyo Ohlone land. And as a quick visual description, I'm a Japanese and white Papa woman with light skin, almost shoulder length, dark hair, and dark rimmed glasses today, wearing a blue shirt. So I'm going to talk a little bit about lives and livelihoods, California's private home care industry in crisis. This is a study that came out of a collaboration between UCLA Labor Center, Hand in Hand, the National Domestic Workers Alliance, Filipino Workers Center, the California Domestic Workers Coalition, and Golden Gate University's Women Employment Rights Clinic. And this is a study of care workers, consumers, home care agencies, and residential care facilities for the elderly, or RCFEs, in the private pay long-term care market in California. And the study explores the home care crisis from the perspective of both care consumers and care providers, making a clear case that we all have been making about the need for more public investment in home care infrastructure. Next slide. So to paint a comprehensive picture of the industry, we used a mixed methods approach. We surveyed 500 workers, 103 consumers throughout California between June 2020 and February 2021. We also conducted in-depth interviews with 6 home care and RCFE workers and 14 consumers, as well as an audit of 62 home care agencies and 38 RCFEs throughout the state. We also drew upon data from the American Community Survey. Slide. So our first key finding is that the lack of infrastructure leaves consumers struggling to find workers and manage a work relationship with them, and makes it hard for workers to access and know their rights. Next slide. Given the intimate nature of long-term care, finding the right home care worker for the job is a substantial task. Our research showed that employers still rely on their personal networks to find workers, with 52% relying on friends and family. About 1/4 used an employment agency and 1/4 went online. Slide. Once a consumer and worker manage to find one another, they face a new set of challenges, negotiating the terms and navigating the realities of their working relationship. The lack of infrastructure in the sector often means that consumers must devise employment terms on their own. Our survey found that 44% of consumers figured it out on their own, and 31% asked friends and family. Next slide. This lack of written employment terms and conditions also means workers may be missing out on the benefits, and they certainly are. Only 29% of consumers reported providing paid sick leave, and only 22% of workers reported ever having taken paid sick leave. Next slide. Our second key finding is that workers' earnings are not enough to meet basic living expenses, let alone have enough for such things as saving for retirement or planning for their long-term care needs. As they grow older, home care workers will need a safety net too. Next slide. Our research found that 2 in 3 workers are being paid by the hour, and 1 in 3 are paid a flat rate. Among those that are paid an hourly wage, the median reported wage by workers was $14.50. This is well below what's considered a living wage in California, which is about $27 an hour. And that's what's needed to pay for basic living expenses, housing, childcare, and food and healthcare. Amongst those being paid a flat rate, the even lower median hourly rate was $9.17 an hour. So as you can see, the home care workforce are being paid poverty wages, which I know is not news to most of us on this call. Next slide. Our wage data generally lines up with what home care workers we surveyed reported about their financial situations. 63% reported that they do not earn enough to meet their living expenses, and 74% reported not having any type of personal retirement savings. And this is especially critical when thinking about paying for their own long-term care needs, knowing that most of us rely on our retirement to be able to pay for our long-term care needs. Our third finding is that many families need financial support through public investment to pay their workers a living wage. Employers generally recognize that home care workers deserve higher pay. Among the consumers we surveyed, 76% would pay higher wages to the workers they employ, and nearly 60% of those surveyed reported that they would like to increase wages but cannot afford to do so. Finally, our study also reflects strong support for universal long-term services and supports social insurance programs. 85% of consumers surveyed said they supported the creation of a new LTSS social insurance program that would be funded by a 1% payroll tax. So that leads to our report's recommendations. In very high level, our primary recommendations are: 1, make it easier for consumers to find care and workers to find fair employers. 2, create stronger infrastructure for the industry and make workers' rights real through education, tools, and increased enforcement. 3, address the crisis of low wages through worker rights enforcement, through such structures as worker-owned co-ops, education, and also the funding to make it possible for consumers and employers to pay more. And finally, expand existing programs and greatly increase public investment in long-term care to improve access and affordability, like the social insurance program. Last slide. So we were really thrilled to release this report and study, which we spent over a year and a half working on. And yesterday we were able to launch the report with and live stream it on social media with an event that included stories from Hand in Hand and other coalition partner leaders tell their stories, as well as a couple of our legislative champions who are carrying a bill and a budget request that would help put California on a pathway to establishing an LTSS social insurance program and more. And we invite people to take a look at this report. It can be found at the bit.ly link, bit.ly/ or /homecare crisis with H and C, home care and crisis, both capitalized. And if you have any specific questions, you can also reach out to our Southern California research manager and organizer, Kayla Shore at kayla@domesticemployers.org. Thanks so much for this opportunity to share.
All right, thank you so much, Lindsay. I think what this speaks to the masses and those that have been doing this work and those that may be new to the concept of care is that there is overwhelmingly so much to support the fact that caregiving is the backbone of this society. And if we are not able to equitably support those that give this sort of care, someone will continue to be left behind and people's needs will not be met. So I'd love to continue this conversation by pivoting to what are we going to do about it? We know that people are not being paid what they're worth. We know that people are not receiving the resources that they need in various states. We also know that there are wait lists across the nation that people have been on when it comes to different resources related to home and community-based services. So I'm really excited to turn it over to Alana Berger, who is a part of New York Hand in Hand, who has been at the forefront of a lot of work in the state of New York around things like this. And they've had some victories this year. So I won't speak too much about it. Alana, I'll pass it over to you and please take it away.
Can you hear Shantae?
Yes, ma'am.
And how long do we have here?
As much as you need.
But we won't be long. So I first just want to show you all, I'm Alana, I'm a she, her pronouns. I am a white woman with brown kind of short hair and clear glasses and a hugely violent mosaic behind me. That's because we are in the war room here in the New York State Capitol. I work with Hand in Hand and New York Caring Majority. So we've built this coalition. Oh, actually, I want to show you guys. We have been taking over this room in the Capitol. A bunch of folks got arrested last night, and we're here because New York Caring Majority is a coalition we built in New York State that brings together the aging, older adults, disabled people, family caregivers, and home care workers. And we've been working very hard over the past few years to win this campaign called Fair Pay for Home Care. In many places, but New York State We have the worst home care workforce shortage in the country. Our population is aging rapidly, and we cannot find, nobody wants to go to a nursing home. But for many people, what allows us to stay in our own homes and communities, so both for older people who are aging, well, all of us are aging, so older folks, but also disabled people. And here's Rachel McCullough. This is Carrying Across Mass Call. Hi! That's Rachel from JFridge, the co-director of Caring Majority, and also with JFridge. What was I saying? Oh, aging population, we need home care, and we don't have enough home care workers, because here in New York, like I'm sure in all of your states, the work that home care workers do is undervalued and definitely underpaid. So workers in New York are making, it's minimum wage, so $13.20 in most of the states an hour, and then $15 an hour in New York City. The statewide fast food minimum wage went up to $15 an hour last July. So in New York, in 54 counties, home care workers make less than fast food workers.
Including where we are.
Including where we are here in Albany. Thank you, Sylvia. You're going to hear from Sylvia in just a minute. So we have been working on this campaign, which would raise home care worker pay to 150% of minimum wage statewide. It's a few $1 billion investment in home care, and we've built a pretty exciting campaign that has brought together our core constituencies and then brought in SEIU 1199, the AARP, the NAACP, actually home care providers, home care agencies. And we have gotten to the point right now where our proposal for fair pay for home care made it into both the Senate and Assembly budgets, about $600 million in the Senate and about $1 billion in the Assembly. And we need our Governor Kathy Hochul, to include it as well. So we have this big negotiation process happening. We're very tired. We've been running around the Capitol all week, talking to legislators. It's been incredibly moving. We've had legislators coming to talk to us, trying to find us. We've in negotiations with the Capitol Police. They've been telling their care stories and have been supportive while arresting people. And it's been a very moving bunch of time with really amazing folks. And so I'm going to shut up because I'm boring and let you hear from two of our folks here who are in about 30 minutes going to get arrested likely, because we are pledging to stay here until fair pay is in the budget, but they are about to close the building. So folks will be risking arrest. So first I'm going to pass you over to Gemma Kalinda.
Hi.
You want me to hold it or you got it?
Yes, that'd be great. Hi, everyone. How are you doing? My name is Gemma Kalinda, and I'm going to risk of being arrested because fair pay for home care is just that important. And we're not leaving. We may be escorted out, but until then, we're here to make sure that we get fair pay for home care and exactly how we want it, 150% of the regional minimum wage. So hopefully our home care workers who are amazing and essential will be making $22.50. And this is what it's about. And when you want something, you fight for it. So I'm fighting as hard as I can for my home care workers.
You want to say anything, Phoenix? This is Phoenix. This is one of the workers that supports Gemma.
Hello, my name is Phoenix. I'm one of Gemma's caregivers. I've been with her for almost a year now. Our 1 year anniversary is coming up. Happy to celebrate that. And I would not trade this job for the world. I absolutely love it. I cannot do it. I don't want to abandon Gemma like that. And higher pay is what I need to, continue this job. I don't want to go anywhere, so we're not going anywhere.
And finally, I'm going to give you to Sylvia Vogelman, a JFridge member.
Hi, I'm 75 years old. I've never been arrested, but this is very important to me. I really feel that we need to take care of our workers, our care workers, and we really need to raise their wages. And this is really an important issue that needs to get passed in New York State. We have a very large deficit of workers here. And as a result of that, the individuals that really need to be taken care of are not being taken care of as they should be. So that's why I'm here, and I want to be here until we win. We really need to win. Thank you.
So we appreciate you all letting us share our report. I don't know if there's any questions or anything else. Otherwise, we will get back to our business of getting our lovely people arrested and winning. And yeah.
I guess Alana, first of all, amazing. I guess before we let you go, I just want to say, please drink some water. We're supporting you from our Zoom while you are all kicking ass, rightfully so. So we have no further questions. Please be safe. Know that we are with you all. And thank you so much for joining us. Amazing.
Thank you all for the support. We got some help from Caring Across to make this all possible. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Can't wait to report back. Hopefully it's a victory.
Lead on. Thank you all.
Folks, this is what we mean by it's our duty to fight for our people. It's our duty to win, as the famous chant goes. Because if we don't, someone will be left behind. It is very inspiring to see those across the walks of life standing up for something that people arguably say is not important. Care is something that, again, is not only important, it is necessary. So big shout out to New York. For those that just joined us online, you just watched New York Hand in Hand and a host of organizations in a direct action, and they took the time to talk to us. And I just think that that is amazing. While we are on the thread of what we do, how we get down, I am going to pass it to our senior campaign managers at Caring Across Generations to talk a bit about the work that they are leading in their respective areas, their orientation to the work, and how you can get involved with what they have going on. So I'll pass it to Vanessa Faraj. Vanessa is a veteran in the game, has done a lot in Atlanta and in the South on a myriad of issues, but I'll let her introduce herself. Vanessa, you go right ahead.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. I'm so happy to be on this call with you today. First and foremost, just want to send love and solidarity and respect to everyone at the New York Caring Majority as they fight the good fight and risk arrest in the process. As Shantae said, my name is Vanessa Faraj. I am one of Caring Across Generations senior campaign managers. I was born and raised in Atlanta, Georgia, which is where I live currently, and it's really an honor to dig into work across the South generally, but in Georgia specifically. So through our work with the National Care Can't Wait Coalition, we are digging into and learning about decades of work here in Georgia regarding expanding access and affordability to childcare, paid leave, and long-term supports and services throughout Georgia. And so what we're trying to learn is, as we really just start to work in Georgia, is how can we contribute to the decades of work that have been happening, and where are there gaps in care infrastructure organizing, advocacy, and policy. And I also want to give a shout out to We Dream in Black and National Domestic Workers Alliance, who have been working and organizing Black nannies, home cleaners, home care workers for years for higher wages, workplace rights and protections, and a dignified workplace. And so, yeah, if you're interested in dreaming and scheming together as we do our, slow but important relationship building and sort of scoping work here in Georgia, and if you'd like to work with us to push for policies that advance access to care for family caregivers, older adults, and people with disabilities, while also upholding the rights and dignity of the workers who allow older adults and people with disabilities to age with dignity and live with dignity independently, then please don't hesitate to send me an email at vanessa@caringacross.org. And with that, I will pass it to my colleague, Callie Bruley in Michigan. And yeah, thanks so much, everyone.
Thanks so much, Vanessa. My name is Callie Bruley. I recently joined the Caring Across team. I just want to echo the love and support to the New York Caring Majority team today. I am joining you from Metro Detroit. So I'm an organizer by trade, but I'm also a family caregiver to my mom, who develops her own health issues from caring for my dad through his life with Parkinson's. I know firsthand how families are impacted by broken care systems. Programs that we've talked about tonight, like funding home and community-based services, making sure folks have access to paid family and medical leave for all, would have really changed my family's care story. So I'm really grateful to be here with all of you today to build the public support needed to make all of these policies we've been talking about today a reality. Right now, I'm just getting started in my home state of Michigan, getting to know all the work that folks have been doing across the different pillars of care for decades and how Caring Across can fit in. So I'm excited to keep learning about how we can all work together and reimagine our care infrastructure in Michigan. So if you're in Michigan or really anywhere in the Midwest, I'd love to hear from you and how we can work together. I'm going to pass it on to my colleague, Malcolm Harris in California.
Thanks so much, Callie. And I am so hyped by Ilana. That is the day-to-day work that I come from. And so just seeing that and just seeing the action that caregivers need to take in order to not only have tears of frustration, but take those tears into action and build power from them. So beautiful opportunity and much appreciation for seeing that movement in action. My name is Malcolm Harris. I am Senior Campaigns Manager for our California base, what was called Universal Family Care Campaign. I am based here in South Central Los Angeles, and I am only one part of our campaigns team here in California. My colleague, the organizer on my team, Alexandra Villegas, is also been a part of building out our awesome campaign. And I see one of our participants is Genesis, who I believe was also one of our survey participants, Genesis Hayes. So wanted to lift her up too, and that she is here and that we have California participants. California Universal Family Care Campaign was a concept that was built out of the fact that when it comes to addressing the needs and the concerns of caregivers, who are mostly overwhelmingly women, mostly overwhelmingly have children, are parents, and they're usually taking care of a loved one in their family or community, that Universal Family Care brings together the pillars of paid leave. In case something goes wrong and you need to take time off from work, everyone wants to know that you have an economic foothold for either paid or maternity leave, childcare to make sure that you have safe and secure access to safe and secure childcare for your family, and long-term care, so that you have that whoever the person is that you're a caregiver for, or if you're a consumer yourself, that they are able to have their needs taken care of. And so our approach is, how do we take a whole family or whole community approach to care, take into consideration the life of the care needs. And so our campaign has been a 3-year campaign that has been focused on the first year of the campaign, really kind of digging in with caregivers and care consumers here in California. So we did an initial survey of 3 cities, Los Angeles, Sacramento, and San Francisco. And again, Genesis Hayes was one of our participants. And we have used all of the findings from that report, from those surveys, to build out a concept paper that will be released in June of this year, that will basically frame why universal family care. And so we are also working closely in the second year of the campaign, which we are in now, working closely with state partners like Lindsay Imai Hong here, who is with Hand in Hand and also the coordinator for the LTSS for All Grassroots Coalition, and working closely with people who have been thought leaders for years on the ground, and really just coming in as a convener to connect paid leave to childcare and to long-term supports and services, and to see if there's an interest in building across those common issue areas, and we have found that there is. And so it has been my pleasure to build with Lindsay and our paid leave and childcare coalitions. And so we are also, we are going into the implementation stage where we are looking at, as the three coalitions, what are the possibilities and anticipation of these lowercase Build Back Better dollars coming into California? What are the possible brainstorming opportunities for us to be working together? And how to reimagine what those dollars could look like and build stronger protections for each other across the work and coalition. And I want to stress the most important part as a carrying across generation as a convener, that folks like Lindsay Imai Hong have put in years of work, and we are just coming in to support that work and looking at how can we build together. We are also in the process of building out our Care Fellowship program, which is being moved by Alex Villegas, and which is really looking at how to turn tears of frustration into action. So it's easy to get caught up in tearful stories, but how do you move it into the next stage? And working with caregivers and care consumers themselves to be policy experts themselves, because they are the ones who are directly receiving or providing the resources, and they have the bandwidth and the understanding to build out and participate in developing policies moving forward. And then the other thing that we are working on doing is trying to figure out who ain't at the table. And we know that in California, that because of a variety of issues, that because of deep issues of displacement and gentrification, and for a variety of other reasons, that Black and Native communities aren't always at tables and have created splinter groups. And so we are actively working to identify who those folks are and to make connections between the issue coalitions that they're connected to. So either it's paid leave, it's childcare, or long-term supports and services. We don't want to ignore the real issues that are being lifted up by Black and Native communities across the state of California and really across the country. And that all of this is together is the concept for our currently Universal Family Care campaign that has shifted from a 3-city campaign to the possibility of a statewide campaign to look at how we can build stronger protections and resources and services for our family of caregivers and consumers, and most importantly, to center them as activists on their own behalf. And I am going to shift it back over to Shantae now.
All right. I'm feeling inspired. For those that were watching with us today, you're probably wondering what's next. We are our best chance at the world that we deserve when it comes to care, when it comes to community support. So we ask that you join us. Our link is here below, caringacross.org/join us. We're just getting started this year with a litany of events that we are excited to share with you all. For those that want to take it a step further and aren't done calling their senators, feel free to reach out to them. Reach out to the ones that have been supporting the HCBS work in the past in the Build Back Better package, to let them know and remind them that, hey, you still have folks in your constituency that care about this. This is not forgotten. We are just getting started, frankly. I want to flag one last time that, again, we are our best shot at getting the communities that we deserve. It starts with me, it starts with you, and it starts with those at home. So I'll leave us with this quote that I am inspired by from our friends with New York Carrying Majority, and it's by my favorite activist and hero, Bayard Rustin. He says that in every community, we need a group of angelic troublemakers, and that is what they are doing today. And those that are in their respective communities fighting the fight, even where it seems like that light at the end of the tunnel broke 5 months ago, you're still going. And guess what? We'll be right there with you. So we look forward to continuing to work with you. Our senior campaign managers are on the ground and doing the work. We'll be here, and we look forward to seeing you in the future. Thank you so much for joining us. And until next time, I'm Shantae Wolf, Director of Campaigns. Y'all have a great evening. Thank you so much. Oh.